preparing for an ice storm. We're kind of right on the edge. North of us is supposed to get a bunch of snow. South of us is supposed to get rain. And we're right in the middle. They're predicting that we're going to get mostly just a lot of ice. You can see things are already starting to build up on the trees. Some of our branches that are normally 5 or 6 feet up in the air are hanging completely on the ground from the weight of the ice. In the greenhouse I came out, I put these braces in. So we put these up to help so it can't collapse if there is a bunch of weight on it. Right now we're just getting ice, but then later tonight all of that snow is supposed to be moving south down by us. Our roads are very windy and very hilly, and it doesn't take a lot of snow or ice to make things pretty dangerous. So we're just trying to get as many chores done as we can before things get even worse outside.
The weather is pretty much awful outside, but it's so nice in here. Kevin has the wood fire and the wood stove going, and it's just super comfy in here. One of the things I really love doing in the winter is making hot meals. In the summer, not so much. We do lots of salads and cold meals, but in the winter, it's my time to really get into making hot meals. We have lots of soups, lots of stews, and tonight I'm gonna make a homemade pot pie. We're going to use a lot of things that we have raised and grown on the homestead, and our family just loves it. Now, I try not to do things from the grocery store that I can just buy in a package, including pie crusts. Fairly recently I've started making my own pie crust, and it really hasn't been as hard as I thought it was going to be. So today, the pot pie I'm going to be making, which is actually venison pot pie, I'll be making a homemade crust. It's the first thing that I need to start with for dinner because it needs to cool for a little bit in the refrigerator. So I want to teach you a quick, easy recipe to make homemade pie crust and a homemade pot pie. So the recipe is really easy and it has very few ingredients. I'm going to be using a food processor today. Even though this is really an old-fashioned recipe, it does help to use a food processor. It just makes it go faster. But I'm going to start with 2 cups of flour. We use organic flour. It is all-purpose. It just works better for us. And I'm just going to put that right in the food processor. Along with 1 teaspoon of salt. On our homestead we use pink Himalayan salt. We order it in bulk. I get 10 pounds at a time actually from Amazon. We really like it. It's not iodized and it has all of the natural minerals that are supposed to be in salt, and it's not refined at all. So I'll put 1 teaspoon in there, and I'm going to turn on the food processor just to mix that up just a little bit. The next ingredient we're going to be using is our home rendered lard from our pigs from this summer. Now I want to talk with you a little bit about lard. It really gets a bad rap. The lard that you get from the store is highly processed. It goes through so much change, or it's so processed so that it can be much more shelf stable. The difference between lard in the grocery store and the lard that's home rendered is home rendered lard has no trans fat, and it actually has less saturated fat than butter. So we've changed our mindset significantly on lard since we've looked into it a little bit more, and we really like that we can produce it on our own on the homestead and don't have to rely on the grocery store. I do have a lot more pig fat in the freezer, and I do plan to do a video coming up soon where I show you how to render your own lard at home. So in this recipe we're going to use 2/3 cup of home rendered lard. This recipe is going to give us 2 crusts. We'll be doing a crust on the bottom and a crust on the top. That was 1/3. Just gonna put the top on there. And we're just going to blend this all up. We want it to turn into coarse crumbs. So you can come in here and look at the consistency of this. It's not really coming together yet, but we're gonna add a little bit of ice water, and that's gonna come together nicely, really quickly. I have some ice water here, and this recipe can use up to 5 tablespoons of ice water, but you don't wanna add it all at once. I'm just gonna add 2 tablespoons at first. See how that does. We want it to come together into a dough, but we don't want to overwork the dough, but we also don't want it to be too wet. So I'm starting with 2 tablespoons. We're going to whip that together with the food processor and see if we need more. Okay. I ended up using 4 tablespoons. Let's come over to the counter. Now the dough has come together very nicely. We're going to divide it into 2 separate balls and put it in the refrigerator for about an hour and until we are done with everything else. And then we'll roll it out. So it's sticking together really nicely. It's not too dry. It's not sticky and wet. But we don't want to work it too much more than this because we want it to be light and flaky when it bakes. So I'm smashing these balls down a little bit into a flat disc. I'll wrap them in plastic wrap and put them in the refrigerator until it's time to roll them out. Now it's time for me to get started on the filling. The first thing I'm going to do is cut up the potatoes because I want to boil them separately. Basically, all the filling that I'm going to be making is going to be all completely cooked. So I don't have to worry about accidentally having raw vegetables inside the pot pie. So these potatoes need to be boiled first. Everything else that I'm going to put in there, I can just kind of saute in a pan before creating the liquid filling part. I'm going to keep these pretty small so that there aren't big chunks of potatoes inside the pot pie. So they'll probably be about 1/2 inch size pieces, hopefully. So I'm just going to get these potatoes on the stove top, get them going so they can boil until they're soft. Now for the rest of the veggies. I'm going to use some frozen diced onions. We actually grew these in the summer. Onions don't save well here, even if you dry them out really well. I think it's a combination of the humidity and because it really stays pretty warm here. So we dice and freeze all of our homegrown onions. So I'm going to put in my pot, which I'm going to end up sauteing the rest of these veggies, and I'm going to put in there probably just over 1/2 cup of diced onions, which is probably the equivalent of a small onion. Put that in there. And then we're going to cut up 1 medium-sized carrot and 2 ribs of celery. So now I need to saute these veggies because I want them pretty soft and cooked down before I make the sauce. Like I said, I want everything basically pre-cooked like we're making beef stew before we put it into the crust and put it into the oven. I'm going to use lard, 2 tablespoons of lard, because we have it, we can produce it on our homestead, but if you don't have that or if you don't want to use that, you could substitute coconut oil or butter or probably even like a vegetable oil. Now if 2 tablespoons seems like a lot, keep in mind that I'm going to be using the oil and adding flour to make a roux, which will then help make our sauce. So the oil isn't just to saute the vegetables, it's also going to help create our sauce. Tonight I'm going to be using some of our canned venison. We love the canned venison. It is a really quick meal, quick added meat to any kind of dish. If you don't have canned meat or canned venison, you can use ground meat, really any kind, or stew meat. If you're going to use stew meat though, I recommend that you brown it in a pan first and make sure it's cooked all the way through before you add it into your sauce mix. The potatoes are done, so I have drained them already. I've made sure to cook them till they're done, but not that so they're so like crumbly that they're going to fall apart when I mix it together. So now I can go ahead and I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of flour into the veggies and the oil mixture, and I'm going to mix it around until all of the flour is soaked up by the oil. It shouldn't take too long, and then I'm going to mix in 2 cups of milk all at once. Stir that around. This is what is going to make our nice sauce. And as soon as I have that mixed around, I'm also going to mix in my can of venison, which also has some nice venison broth in it. The milk that we used is from our goats, our Nigerian dwarf goats. They produce the most amazing milk. Okay, that's all mixed in. So now I'm going to mix in our pint of venison meat with the venison broth. Mix it all together. And I'm going to turn up the heat, and I'm going to continue stirring this until it turns thick. Okay, that is getting really nice and thick and bubbly. I'm just going to stir that just for a couple more seconds. Now I have been stirring this constantly to make sure that it doesn't stick on the bottom. Just a little bit longer, and then I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off now. There are a couple seasonings I'm going to add. I'm going to add some salt. Now, salt should be added, to your preference and to your taste. I think I'm going to add about 1/2 teaspoon of salt and mix that in. And then about 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. If you like fresh ground pepper, go ahead. I actually had somebody ask me recently, freshly ground black pepper tastes so much better. And I agree, but it just doesn't do well for me. It makes me feel so sick. But the regular ground black pepper doesn't do that. So for us, we just stick with a plain old ground black pepper. That looks great. So I'm going to add the potatoes now. These will just finish it off so nicely. It made a lot of filling. I'm not sure it's all gonna fit inside my deep dish pie plate. We'll have to see. Otherwise, we'll just have leftovers. So the filling is done. I'm just gonna cover it while I get the crusts ready. And I'm going to preheat the oven. We're gonna bake this at 400 degrees. Okay, let's get the crust going. When I roll out pie crusts, I actually use a trick that my dad taught me. My dad makes fantastic homemade pies, and he makes homemade pie crust. And he taught me to use wax paper, tape it down onto the counter, and then use a second piece on top of the crust when you're rolling it out. It works really slick. So this has been in the refrigerator while we were making everything else. We're going to start with the crust for the bottom of our pot pie. We're just going to roll it out, starting from the center and moving out. We're going to keep doing that until we have a pie crust that is the size of the pie plate. Let's see if it's going to fit. It looks like it. Let's take off the top layer. Detach it from the counter. We're going to lay it on top. Try to center it. And then we can just carefully remove the wax paper. Readjust it carefully if you can. Just gently press it down. All around. And around there. We're going to do the same thing with the second ball of dough and make the top crust. The top crust is done, so now let's fill up our pot pie with the filling so we can get this in the oven. It's a little hot still, so I have to be careful. Just push this down a little bit, not too much. Want to be able to connect it around the edges. I think it worked. Just have to be slow and careful. Yes. Okay, so right now I'm just going to press around the sides just gently so that it will make contact with the bottom layer of crust. And then if you want to, you can cut all this off again, but I really like to just kind of include it and kind of mush it into a nice pretty edge. See if we can do that. So that's pretty good. Like I said, I'm not a professional, I just love to cook, and I think that it'll be good. So I do want to cut a couple pieces. I want to cut just a couple openings in here so that it has some room for some air to escape. So it's all done. We're going to put this in the oven on 400 degrees, and it will probably take about an hour, but we'll see. So it's all finished. It ended up taking about an hour and 5 minutes or so, but I think it turned out perfect. It's absolutely beautiful. And I've made a tangy cabbage salad or maybe a cabbage slaw to go next to it. I think it's gonna be fantastic. So the next step is to cut a piece, see what it looks like. Hopefully it doesn't like fall apart all over the place, which kind of happens sometimes with these gooey savory pies. But let's cut a piece and see what it looks like. Oh, the crust looks gorgeous and flaky. No, we're not each gonna have a quarter of a pot pie, but it is tempting. You know, I had a little bit of filling left over. Well, it's not left over anymore because the kids came in and completely devoured it, and we're sad that there wasn't any left after that. So they're gonna be excited to eat this. Okay, let's pull this out. Not bad. Not bad at all. Let's serve some of this awesome cabbage salad next to it. We love cabbage on our homestead. There we go. Perfect and ready to eat. Well, you guys, I hope you enjoyed a little bit of time on our homestead today and following me along to make a homemade meal on a cold night for the family. If you enjoyed this video and you are enjoying our channel, please think about subscribing. We would really appreciate it. Check us out on all of our social media, including Instagram. And until next time, thank you so much for stopping by the homestead. Take care and God bless.